Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Never, ever forget this. In everything that you do, always remember Goliath was a 40-point favorite over David. Enough said. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday, Vote Day. Everybody go to the polls. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. Vote Day for Idaho, Oregon, Nebraska, and Pennsylvania in the primaries. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And get ready for a road trip. You better believe it. They've got all the tires, everything to help you have a safe trip. Stop in and see them today, along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, my friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So well done, Doug. Thank you. And call back in a few minutes because I think you're going to want to make a comment.
God bless.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. Calls welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Right now it's time for the weather, brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Right there. Can't miss it on the Burley-Paul Highway. And don't forget, they've got the best of tools and equipment for any kind of a job, construction project, whatever. Roger and the crew, they can and they will help you. Stop in or give them a call today at 678-3122. K&R Rental. Right now, here's the weather.
Expect typical mid-spring weather for today and, honestly, for the rest of the week. Here's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Scattered rain, showers, and thunderstorms off and on for today under partly cloudy skies. Slightly breezy winds out of the east, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 73. Tonight, more isolated showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly cloudy skies with a low of 47. Tomorrow, just photocopy today. Slight chance of rain, showers, and thunderstorms off and on throughout the day. Partly sunny skies, breezy, and a high of 74. For Wednesday night, we are expecting a low of 46. For Thursday, no change. Slight chance of rain or thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly sunny skies with a high of 74. As we take a sneak peek at Friday, again, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the forecast with a high of 67. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
And Gina, thank you so much. She does a great job, comprehensive weather forecast. K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Yes, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway, serving you. Open the doors early at 7 o'clock in the morning. Number to call, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Hey, don't forget, on Thursday, it's sale day at Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. The number to call for cattle consignments and, of course, sale information, 678-9411. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy at the sale that works for you. Absolutely. 10:30 starting time, Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. No excuses. Everybody plan. Maybe 30 minutes. Maybe 30 minutes to go to the polls and vote in primary voting day today. And don't you forget. Please. We'll talk about that in just a minute. By the way, Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They absolutely are the best cleaners in the world. Been using them for a long time. And when I want the best of looking good, feeling good, I take my clothes in there all the time to Darrow's Cleaners. Kevin and Cindy and the whole crew serving you, and they're located at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I urge you to stop in. See them today. Darrow's Cleaners. Thank you very much. Today is voting day, and I do not, some do, but I will not carry any advertisements for any politicians on voting day. I won't do it. I'm urging you to go to the polls and vote, and it is the primary election day. And I think it's easy to say, but I certainly hope you'll adhere to this, that we need to have enough, finish it, no more, of the embarrassing, like maybe 20% turnout or even less. I urge everybody to go to the polls. I would be tickled, absolutely tickled, if we could read that we saw maybe a 45 to 50% turnout. My goodness, yes, go to the polls and vote. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, it's really sad how few people really participate in the voting privilege that we have in this constitutional republic. I have the privilege of being a guest of college friends for almost a week in the Washington, D.C. area, and to see the sacrifice that those founding fathers went through to bring about, well, the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War, the Constitutional Convention. I mean, just the fact that in the summertime they're locked up in the Independence Hall there, the temperature must have been overwhelming. And but it's greater than that. They had a mission. They knew they were creating something different and new. And this is really sad that so few of us appreciate the privilege it is to live in this country. There's never been a country in the
No, I totally agree with you, Adrian. I totally agree with you, and I get really upset when people give me a bunch of excuses as to why they didn't vote. Like they'll say, oh, well, I had to clean out the cat's litter box, or I had to trim my toenails, or perhaps I had to clean the lint out of my navel. I get so upset at these petty excuses when they should be proud to be American citizens and patriots and go to the polls.
Oh, absolutely, Deb. And we just take so much for granted. You know, we're the freest people in the world. You know, in the movie The Ten Commandments, Cecil B. DeMille, at the narration, at the beginning of the film, it says, God created man, man created slaves. Most people on the planet that have ever been born live as some kind of slave to some dictator. You know, it's really, really, really sad.
Well, we've got a lot of choices to make today. A lot of choices to make today. And I urge people to get to the polls. Adrian, good to hear from you. God bless you. And I'll tell you, like I'm going to tell everybody, go vote. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Get out there and vote.
All right, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I totally agree with that. You know what? Come on, folks. Listen, this is America. We've got a lot of choices to make. A lot of choices to make, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They're open early in the morning at 7:30 till 5, Monday through Friday, for all, this isn't brag, this is fact, all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Yes, and they have the best of very, very experienced and knowledgeable people to serve you. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Absolutely. And real quick, too, and at the end of the program, I'm going to make a special announcement, so stay tuned for that. I want to talk a little bit about Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. And Denny's Restaurant, of course, America's Diner, serving you the best of breakfast, lunch, and dinner anytime, all the time. I urge you to get in there today and enjoy great eating, great people serving you. It's all there. Absolutely. 611 North Overland and Burley, and the other location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Yep, it's true. America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to get a little blunt and a little poignant here this morning about politics. Many good people are running for office, and some not so good at all. Hold on, caller, I'll be right there. Some were very precise and concise about their goals as a politician. Some couldn't even organize a one-horse parade. Some said they would do this or that, but some probably can't or won't. So you need to be very discerning and, quite frankly, very knowledgeable about the people that you vote for today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, I turned on the TV this morning to KMPT, and they're running Tommy Alquist commercials. I've seen 3 of them already this morning.
I don't care what... Keith, wait a minute. Keith, just a minute. I don't care what others do. I don't care what KMVT does. I couldn't care less what they do. I couldn't care less what any other media source does. I just feel that it's not fair to run certain ads on Election Day. Some people's budget might have run out. Some didn't have the money to maybe buy all the way straight through, maybe not to buy the frequency of the many ads on the air. I just don't think it's fair to go to the polls and keep hearing ads for a certain few.
That is correct. And, you know, I think this has been the filthiest campaign that I've seen in Idaho in my lifetime. Alquist and Little just literally insulted themselves to death.
Up to a point.
I did not spend one dime voting for either one of them.
Up to a point, and don't forget, if you're going to be fair and balanced, you got to put Labrador in the fray also, because he absolutely was as guilty, quote unquote, if you will, of negative campaign advertising. I'm not going to let you hang out 2 out of 3. They all fall in the same category with some of the ads that I found to be repugnant.
Which one? You know, I voted for Labrador. I think he's a good choice. But I never did ever hear a real negative ad. He tells you.
I've got them right here in my hands. No, I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna go there, Keith. They're all guilty of some negativity in their campaigns this year. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Some ran good information campaigns, some were terrible and worthless, and some were totally negative. I don't like the negativity. I like people to say what they're going to do. I like people to tell how they're going to get it done. I don't like all the backstabbing, because there was a knives thrown this year, more so than ever before. But to say that one didn't do it, that's not true at all.
Okay, here's my take on the whole thing. Every time you've had one of these guests on your show, you treated them with kindness and respect, and I appreciate that. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
No, I appreciate it, Keith. I was not going to be prejudicial. I was not going to highlight one over another. Naturally, I've got my favorites that I want to have win. There's no doubt in my mind, and I'm being very forthright and honest about it. But there's no sense to jade or try to shadow one client or one politician over another in the primaries, because they all paid their money. They all wanted to get involved in politics, and I think we should do the fairness of treating them fairly.
Well, and I think you've done that.
Well, I appreciate it.
I don't agree completely because I think any time you lie about somebody, you are really putting yourself in a position that you shouldn't be.
No, I agree with that too. But the negativity has got to stop. For if there's a closed circuit message into the campaigns and into the minds of all politicians, I'm not going to single anybody out. You better clean up your act. The American public is sick and tired of sleaze. I have some ads here on my desk that absolutely are pathetic, and I'm going to find out who was the ad agency that put these together, and I'm going to condemn them. Keith, God bless you, man. Thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you, too.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Don't forget Pomerell Place, a place for senior living. And I tell you about these folks every day on the air. And they offer the ability for seniors to maintain their independence both safely and comfortably. Don't you forget to give them a call and find out more. 677-8212. Pomerell Place, a place for senior living at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. Don't live alone. Don't face the hazards. Please make that call today. 677-8212, Pomerell Place in Burley. Really good folks. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I said it. I stand behind it. Some politicians ran really good information campaigns. Some ads, and I want this to be heard clearly, and I have copies of the ads, whether it was print form or I took copies of whether it was radio or TV. Some ads were so low-classed, I would not let them on my program. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. And I appreciate that, what you said just now. Hey, I got a thing for Kelly Packer in the mail. I guess I didn't ever hear about her. Do you know, is she a Republican or a Democrat?
Yes, she is a Republican, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to talk about any specific candidate per se this morning, and you can understand why, because I'm not going to build one up over the other one. I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think some of the advertising campaigns were very low funded, some were very low information, and a lot of people like yourself are probably asking questions, who is this and what do they stand for? I understand your dilemma.
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing anything. I mean, I liked her looks, and is she a Republican or a Democrat? Or, yeah, that's going to hurt her if other parts of the state only got as much information as I did.
Well, here's the situation, and Wheels, please ride that gain on the feedback just a little bit. Chris, I absolutely maintain that, I'll say this percentage, 60% of the media and the advertising companies that work for some of the politicians don't know their head from a hole in the ground because they do a very slovenly job of getting the word out on their clients. And I've seen this time and time again, especially in this primary.
Well, obviously, and because, I'm really into this, and I would like to know more about this person. But anyway, thank you, and I guess you and I are both in the gray area.
All right. Hey, God bless you, Chris. Thank you very much. One thing I want to say, and I brought this up to a lot of candidates, and I'm going to stand behind this. You'd better not start denigrating education like you did. I'm not going to mention names. I'm not into that this morning. But for some to say, oh, education at the bottom of the barrel, or it's a wasteland and everything, don't do that again. I will call you out on this program. If it's not for this one, I did earlier on some. I let them know I didn't want to hear that garbage. And when it comes time for this fall's election, I'm going to tell them again, back off and don't be so negative about our kids, our families, our teachers, and the education system in the state of Idaho. I am sick and tired, absolutely sick and tired, of the negativity that is a casting shadow on our kids and our education system with vile comment. Oh, we're at the bottom of the barrel. Why, these kids aren't doing anything. Don't go there. Not with me. I will call you out. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd appreciate your calls on voting day for 4 major states across the country. We're one of them, Oregon, and along with Nebraska and Pennsylvania, Idaho with primary day today. Don't forget Dino Septic Service in Rupert. Absolutely the best. I'm going to be talking to one of the gentlemen on Thursday, as a matter of fact. Looking forward to finding out more about their fast, fair, friendly service to you. Septic tanks, pumps, septic tanks and drain fields installed, backhoe services, and water and sewer lines installed. Oh, they do it all. Liquid waste removal. They are the best at what they do, serving you. Call them at 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638. Dino Septic Service with a big truck that says smells cargo on the way. You be sure and get a hold of them today. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Some candidates could not follow the rules. Some candidates, and I mean this and I do not back up on this, had the IQ of a stone when it came to organizing a campaign or organizing their thoughts or at least ask for help. Some were absolutely out of the loop. Some were absolutely cognizant of what needed to be done, how to get the achievement of that, and do the job for you. And to those people, I salute them, and I hope they win. To others, get your act together. If you're going to run in front of the public for a political position, know the rules, know the parameters, know what to do. And don't say, well, gee, they're newcomers. They didn't have any idea. There's a 3-letter word. Ask. Ask. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Come on, please give me a jingle. I want to talk to you about a situation that absolutely is a mirror of what's happening to us in our country, and it's happening over in Israel. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And believe me, if you've got an ache or a pain or a sprain or recovering from surgery or an accident, boy, they can help. They help me. They can help you. Nick Greenwell and the entire staff of physical therapists, they know, and they can help you get back to being you. And they've also got that hydrotherapy pool over there. Oh, my goodness, the only one of its kind in existence in this area, and that helps so much. Make an appointment today, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Really, really nice people, knowledgeable people. All right, it is your turn. Call me, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. If you did not hear about what's happening over in Gaza with Israel, and when you look at the story, just keep an open mind, and you can replace Gaza and the Palestinians and Israel. You can replace in the story the United States and illegal aliens. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, because they're trying to storm our border. They're trying to take over this country.
Absolutely. You know, Doug, I've said on this program many, many times, and I stand behind this statement, and you as one of our dear friends, you know this is true. I'm not in this business to make friends. I'm in this business to give out honest information. And what's happening over there now to Israel with our own media in this United States condemning Israel for trying to protect their borders is absolutely beyond the pale. And I damn and I mean this, the media here in America for what they're doing.
I do too. I mean, they're taking the story and cropping it to where it sounds like Israel's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But you need to take the whole story and look at the whole story. Hamas is telling those people that Israel's have pulled back. You can storm the border.
Yeah.
Well, these people that follow Hamas blindly, just like a lot of the Democrats around here follow the Pelosi and Schumer blindly, they went running for the border.
Well, wait a minute, though. Doug, I got to say something. The other callers, number 2, stay on the air. I'll be right with you. Doug, did you also read between the lines as to the idiocy and incompetency of these so-called border stormers from Gaza and Palestinians that were carrying 8-month-old babies? And when some of them died in this melee, it's blamed on Israel. Why would any parent of any mental capacity at all bring a small baby to that kind of a confrontation?
So they could blame the other side
there you go.
For killing children.
There you go. That's exactly right. And it's almost like they were trying to have a mass suicide of their own children. It's absolutely insane.
Exactly. And that's why Hamas told them that they backed away from the borders, go ahead and storm it. They knew people would die. But you don't see Hamas, the leaders, doing this. You see them using uneducated people and people that just follow them blindly.
How could any parent in the world pick up their 8-month-old baby and try to storm through barricades of a border expecting that there's going to be violence, there's going to be gunfire, and rightfully so, protecting Israel's borders?
Because Hamas will pay the family dearly for the loss of their children and the loss of them. They will get money for this.
The insane news media, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, go right on down the list. They're nuts, absolutely nuts, in blaming Israel for what has been called in the media a terrible massacre perpetrated by Israelis. No, it wasn't perpetrated. It's the same doggone thing as what's happening on our border. Are we going to stand up and protect our borders, or are we going to wave a sign that says, y'all come on in?
Well, the Democrats that have us waving a sign, y'all come on in. And you know that, and I know that. And they're just... It's one of those deals that if you've got your house and you lock your doors and somebody's coming in your house...
I'd shoot them. You'd better believe it. I am so sick of the mamby-pamby attitude in this world today, the condemnation of Israel for doing nothing more than respecting and promoting their borders, like us, and people tried to storm the borders and create chaos and create insurrection. They got shot, killed, and wounded. I do not feel sympathy.
Okay. And one thing I want to say real quick, too, is today's polling day. Go out and vote. Not for you. Vote for your kids and your grandkids. So
Absolutely.
This country can stay almost like it is for your kids and your grandkids.
Doug, that is very well stated, and I urge everyone, I'm going to say it all morning long, go vote. Thank you, my dear, dear friend.
Can I have about 15 seconds?
You just did.
More seconds.
Okay.
Well, I was going to promote it at the Lunch Bunch, which is coming up Thursday, but you've got an announcement you're going to be making. So I have raffle tickets for the Rupert Senior Center. They're giving away an almost brand new John Deere lawnmower bagger, self-dumper, a barbecue grill, a patio table, and a picnic table.
Okay.
The tickets are 3 for $5. I have them
Okay.
at my shop.
All right.
Pick them up.
Doug, thank you so much. God's blessings to you. Appreciate it.
God bless you.
Thank you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Thanks for your patience.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to say welcome everybody to come on in to Senior Junction on South Overland. We're going to have biscuits and gravy and probably hash browns and link sausages today. Tomorrow, Senior Appreciation Lunch. We always have a good one, probably turkey and dressing and all the trimmings. And I appreciate you.
Well, Joe, thank you. I'm surprised with all those delicious menu choices that you haven't gained about 250 pounds.
Well, I'm holding my own. We also could use some volunteer help in the morning. Anybody that likes to come and help in the kitchen for a couple or 3 hours would be appreciated.
Joe, thank you so much. Joe Taylor talking about the Senior Junction Senior Center on Overland in Burley. Joe, God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You bet, buddy. Nice man right there, and really community-oriented. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Honestly, what are your thoughts about our media in the United States sounding like Israel, our number one ally in the Middle East? Oh, they're painting them out to be the criminals, and they're painting them out to be the bad guys in this situation. When yet the Palestinians and Hamas, a terror organization, trying to storm the borders, and they're turned back. Why? Why is it Israel's fault? Caller, I'll be right there. Please stay with me. I want to remind everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental. Sales, service, and parts. At 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Juan. Hope he's feeling better. 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls with Eli and the Nampa location. Equipment rentals, retail equipment sales, and they've got those Walker lawnmowers. Ooh, with all this rain, that grass is just shooting up out of the ground, and it's getting longer and longer. You better check on those Walker mowers. They can do the job for you. And also check out everything like the Bobcat excavators, everything at Barry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa, the best. Caller, good morning, and thank you. You're on the air.
Morning. You know, these borders of Israel was established a long time ago. And they've stayed within their borders. They haven't tried to gain any more territory or anything. But these other people keep invading their borders. And why the news people think that Israel is responsible is irresponsible on their part.
Well, I'm afraid that tonight on the news, and Keith, you can be our number one note taker on the news and go through all the channels. I think you will find that almost 95%, ABC, CBS, NBC, they're all going to side along with the Palestinians, and they're all going to have a pity party for the other side and a negativity finger pointing at the Israelis. And I am fed up with this. All they are doing is protecting their people and their borders, much the same as you and I in America.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they keep poking Israel with their stick just like you would a snake, we're going to get bit. And I mean, when Israel decides to really do something about it, they're going to be really, really sad. And I think that's going to bring Iran into it and a few other things. But mark my word, this is what's coming.
Well, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that at all, because I think your analogy of saying they keep poking at a stick, they're going to get bit. Yes, they are. And rightfully so. Because if Israelis are in their borders, in the confines of their country, and they're protecting their borders, I feel no compassion whatsoever for criminal outsiders that are trying to get into the Israeli border. What happens to them is deserved.
Why don't the United States use this as an example? And we should protect our borders also.
Well, there's no question. But you know,
we're sort of getting there, but we're not there yet.
I couldn't agree more. Keith, again, good to hear from you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You bet.
You know, and then I heard these, there were so many this morning. I switched the dials and I kept listening to what's going on, and I read the press releases and everything, and I thought, wait a minute. How in the world can there be justification for parents or anybody to be dragging children into that area where, yes, harm might prevail? And then there were wailing and crying. An 8-month-old baby was killed. I sat there and I told the aunt, I said, how in the world and why in the world would you want to put a baby or a child in that kind of a confrontation over borders or trying to breach borders? And you cannot blame the Israelis for protecting their... What are they supposed to do? Just stand back and say, y'all come in? Y'all do what you want to? No. They were protecting their borders. And the blame falls on the terrorist organization Hamas and the Palestinians. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call. I would like to hear from you. So it's vote day. Everybody go to the polls. I think they'll open in about 20 minutes. And please go vote in the primaries. We need your vote today. No excuses. No excuses. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle about anything that we've talked about. Melania Trump, as a lot of people may or may not know, has not been in the best of health. And she was in the hospital the last couple of days, and it is a kidney problem. And I understand, I don't know a lot of facts. I don't think a lot of people have put out a lot of information regarding this. But she is supposedly going to be A-OK and out of the hospital, hopefully by week's end. And we wish our best to the First Lady, Melania Trump. Caller, good morning, and thank you for your call. Talk to me, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning again. Well, the whole thing, Obama gave the Iran, all the Molochs, all that money, $150 billion. I don't know how much of it's actually delivered. I know they took a plane load of bills over there, and I don't know how much more. But that's the money that's financing all of Hamas and all of this terrorism. But that's because Obama loved the Muslim morning prayers. He was one of them. He was helping them out.
Well, I can't argue with anything you're saying, but I never thought in my lifetime I would see the United States stoop as low as like a drunk crawling out of a bar to pay for possible friendship and or treaties, cash of $150 billion, just to try to make things easier for the other side. I think a get tough policy is long overdue. I think what Trump is doing by canceling out that agreement with Iran is absolutely necessary. And let the chips fall where they may. I am sick and tired of being bought.
And the thing, when you're bringing up about bringing children and so forth, they have no respect for life. I mean, they're part of their whole Islam theocracy is that, everything's for Allah. And, if you die for Allah, you're going to get, big reward. So this is the problem, is in these kids, and they've been taught that from the time they were infants, that, everything's for Allah, so you take a stand, and if you get killed, but, you don't see the Molochs out there on the front lines. They just let everybody else's cannon fodder.
Well, I tell you one thing. I can't even imagine. I can't even in my mind surmise how a parent anywhere in the world, mom and dad, would think, hey, let's go to an insurrection this morning and let's take the little baby in the crib and go right to the front lines. What kind of idiots would do something as insane as that?
Well, like I said, they're insane because of their theocracy, and their theology is that, this is part of the Quran, and worship Allah. I just received something from Eagle Forum yesterday, opened it up, and it was quite a comparison between Christianity and Islam.
Yeah.
It just went down. It covered about 30 different topics, and the difference. But people think we can coexist with these people.
No, we are a very.
They're planning to kill us.
We're becoming a very naive and dumbed down society. Adrian, I got a weather forecast to get on, buddy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you the weather forecast this hour brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Dr. Pickup and Dr. Mitchell, very skilled and compassionate audiologists that can find the problem and treat the problem. They're right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, and the number to call, 312-0957. They are dedicated to serving people with hearing loss of all ages and their families at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Expect typical mid-spring weather for today and, honestly, for the rest of the week. Here's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch. Scattered rain, showers, and thunderstorms off and on for today under partly cloudy skies. Slightly breezy winds out of the east, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 73. Tonight, more isolated showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly cloudy skies with the low of 47. Tomorrow, just photocopy today. Slight chance of rain, showers, and thunderstorms off and on throughout the day. Partly sunny skies, breezy, and a high of 74. For Wednesday night, we are expecting a low of 46. For Thursday, no change. Slight chance of rain or thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly sunny skies with a high of 74. As we take a sneak peek at Friday, again, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the forecast with a high of 67. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
And I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you. Brought to everybody by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And the number to call for a hearing screening. I did it. You should. They helped me. 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Calls are welcome. 436-2244. 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, too, Airvana is defined as the ultimate level of comfort you'll achieve with the presence of a new Lennox home comfort system. And when you buy a new Lennox system at Ramsey Heating and Electric, you can get up to $1,700 in rebates. Airvana is just another way to make you feel better. So call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459 or go to their website, ramseysonline.com. Okay, your turn. 436-2244. 1-866-927-4587. Oh, and by the way, to all the global warming kooks, and they are, and climate change nuts, which they are, you keep hammering at me and other people about not understanding climate change. Well, no, that's not the case. I am very well read, very well versed on climate change and or / global warming with Al Gore and his mindless attack. And when you say statements that are totally frivolous and stupid, like, the majority of scientists, 97% agree. No, don't go there, because that's a lie. And it is absolutely all conjured up in your minds to try to inflate the figures on your side. But when I hear stories, and I follow up on stories, that the impact, listen to me carefully, the impact of CO2 regarding climate change, it was overstated by at least 40%? I start to question the validity of anything you on the left say. Because you've been dishonest, you haven't told the whole story, and to be quite frankly, very blunt, you're doggone liars. The Times News falls into that category. They found out that the climate change models and the studies were overstated about CO2's involvement in climate change by 40%. That is a big number, my friends. That is a huge number. And somebody on the left is going, oops. How did that information get out? Oops. You see, this is the thing about the goofball left. They want you to follow lockstep, hook, line, and sinker into some of the most ridiculous circumstances that they deem necessary so they can control you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny that you said that on that, Zeb. I just heard a deal not too long ago, earlier this morning, that now they're saying one other thing that's really kind of helping the global warming thing is that we shouldn't go on vacations as much.
Oh, yeah.
Because they said we're spreading
Yeah.
the CO2s and stuff like that all over wherever we happen to go.
Absolutely.
And they said that the Americans are the worst. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me. The idiot left, and they are. I'm so worried about these people. I wish they'd put a pillow around their head so that when they fall, well, absolutely, if they did fall, they wouldn't hurt anything. But the idiot left absolutely preaching about we've got to have more control. Well, you can't go you can't go to Gunnison, Colorado to see your neighbors or your Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred. Why, you're creating global havoc and we're all going to burn up. That's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it all comes down to the one word you just said, control.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and we need to fight back, and if it comes to poking somebody in the nose, so be it. Because these people on the left want nothing more than to have you get up in the morning and exist. And that's it.
Well, the first person I want to punch in the nose would be that wuss Al Gore.
Al Gore has made millions over spreading fear and hatred and absolutely nonsense. And he's sitting in his great big ivory towers, flying all over the world in his private jets, and he's laughing at the rest of us. I just absolutely, when I think of Al Gore, I think of one of the most worthless human beings on the face of the earth for what he's done to hurt other people.
I never ever did care much for him either. But ever since he got into this global warming drum roll and stuff that he's doing, it just despise him even more.
Every time you put a piece of toast in the toaster, every time you open your refrigerator, every time you go to the grocery store, smirk a little bit and say, "Hey, Al, baby, I'm enjoying life."
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sir. Hey, God bless you for your call. Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Go vote, everybody. Go vote. Primary day. Let's really raise the percentages, and everybody go vote, please. By the way, quickly, before I get out of time this morning, did you hear that story about those cheerleaders back east someplace? I don't even care where it was because I couldn't care less about the situation other than the fact that a mother complained because her daughter wasn't accepted to a cheerleading team, and they had to, because of her complaints and her being so obnoxious, they had to change the rules so that basically anybody and everybody can be a part of it. This is so stupid and asinine, and they should have told the mother to take a long walk off a short pier. They should have got rid of the whole bunch of doggone cheerleaders, and they said, here's our numbers. We're going to have 6 cheerleaders, and if you don't qualify to be a cheerleader, tough luck. Don't let the door hit you in the pom-poms on the way out. I am so sick and tired of people saying, well, my daughter and my son didn't make it, so you got to change the rules. Grow up. Life isn't fair. Whew, I feel better. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And they say if you're getting ready for a road trip, and I hope you do, I hope you enjoy yourself this summer. That's what life's about. Don't forget to stop in and check out all the tire buys, like the Road Control Touring AS for your cars, all-season tread, smooth, quiet ride. Or for your pickups and SUVs, the Backcountry Touring HT, outstanding ride balance, noise-canceling features. Oh, yes. And don't forget, if you are going on a road trip, stop into any one of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers for a free pre-trip safety check. Yes, they care. Yes, they want you to go and come back safely. Yes, you stop into any location, they can and will help you. Lane in Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike in Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my friend Randy on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Here's what we've got cooking for the rest of the morning, and next hour, I've got Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org talking about some of the stupidity that's going on in education today. And then at 9:30, one of my favorite people, Vicky at Vicky's Country Garden, is going to be on. And then at 10:06 this morning, don't miss this, because I've asked Gary and Bev Stone, and they are authors, and Gary's a painter and everything, and they had a book called Stone by Stone on the Oregon Trail. They're going to take us from Missouri all the way out into this area as our forefathers, our ancestors, traveled the dangerous Oregon Trail to help spread across America. We're going to talk to them at 10:06. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Wheels. He's going to play a little music for us this morning. Man, it feels good. And then take us up to CBS News. Wheels, it's all yours. Oh, my. Good morning on Election Day. No excuses. Come on, be an American and go to the polls and vote. And you've got plenty of time, so get there today, please. Vote in the Idaho primaries. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and of course with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and including some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Really, really good folks. Want to remind you, too, about these good folks at Western Way Services. Wheels, please.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is landing ahead, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
Oh, do you need a dumpster, Bunky? Well, I'll tell you what, if you're cleaning up, throwing out, and getting rid of, don't forget they've got dumpsters in various sizes. And all you need to do is call them at Western Way Services, 734-6969. They'll drop it off on your property, and then when you fill it up, they'll come and get it. Absolutely serving you, like it says, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969, Western Way Services. By the way, too, don't forget, Airvana is defined as the ultimate level of comfort you'll achieve with the presence of a new Lennox home comfort system. And when you buy a new Lennox system at Ramsey Heating and Electric, you can get up to $1,700 in rebates. Airvana is just another way to make you feel better. So call Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. I get a chance right now to visit with, I think, one of my favorite guests on the program because of what he talks about, what he stands for, and that's Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. It's been a long time, Kyle. How you been?
Doing great. I'm glad that spring is here.
Well, I tell you what, I am too, and you live in a very beautiful part of the Midwest. I'm assuming you still live in Michigan, is that correct?
Yes, in Muskegon. Yep.
And
Lake Michigan.
is there any chance that you think you're going to beat the University of Wisconsin in football, basketball, etc. this upcoming year, or is it another done deal?
There's no question in my mind.
Attaboy.
Michigan State is ranked in the preseason poll is ranked number 9 for football.
I know it is, and
we'll see.
I wish you a lot of success. Kyle, I wanted you on the program as we're drawing near to the end of the school year and talk a little bit about some of the absolute insanity that's going on, whether it's college campuses, whether it's in the high schools or the grade schools, and start first of all with the story that I reported on about maybe 8-9 days ago, where at your University of Michigan and other locations, they have now developed bias response teams that are going around and listening and writing down things and turning people in for maybe bad words that they've used or expressing bad thoughts. What's going on here?
Well, it's a culture on campuses where people are more interested in their feelings than they are in facts, and there is a bias towards, I should say, there's a bias against conservative ideas and frankly, free speech. And free speech has been under attack for years. And the problem is, it's one thing to not tolerate someone's opinion, but when that becomes institutionalized, basically, and it becomes weaponized, and administrators through these bias response teams and these panels that are created and of professors and students and administrators. And they're doing it in the name of tolerance, but in reality, they're the most intolerant people on campus.
Yeah.
It has this chilling effect, and it leads people to believe that their beliefs, which may be rooted in their upbringing or in their religious beliefs or whatever it is, are wrong. And not only are wrong, but they're illegal. And so it has this chilling effect. And you think, how is this going to impact? It's one thing to have it happen on campus and kids just sort of shrug their shoulders and think, oh, this is stupid and whatever. But how is that going to condition them to be adults and to be parents and to be members of society in the workplace or wherever the case may be? And so, this is why it's so dangerous, because the left understood a long time ago that the way to change your society was through schools and through the media and through entertainment. And that's what we're seeing play out today.
Kyle, the thing that scares me, and I'm an old man, but when I read that there are over 200 colleges and universities that are employing, if you will, these scare tactics to their students and threatening them, oh, you said this, and we caught this on March 25th, and we're going to see if we can't get you expelled from college. Holy smokes, what kind of a Gestapo age are we moving into?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And there's a new group called Speech First. And they have filed a lawsuit against the University of Michigan about this, and basically demanding that they stop doing this to students. Because what it amounts to is, if you are passing someone's conversation, so someone could say something negative to someone, and there's no context, but you as a passerby hear it, you are able to report that, and then that person who said that then has to go through this process where there's quote unquote accountability, and it's damaging to their reputation. It potentially impacts their record, their academic record, and employers can potentially get that information, and it can all potentially come from a misunderstanding or a mishearing something. That's why this is so chilling.
Well,
and so, in my judgment, universities need to be a place where there is free thought, there is free speech. The more ideas, the better. And trust people to come to their own conclusions about these ideas and what they think is best for themselves and for the country.
And I was chewed out a couple of weeks ago after my program when I had this story air for the first time. And I used the term that this is almost a return in history to Gestapo and Hitler's Germany. And a caller called me after the program. Naturally, they didn't have the guts to call during the program, and chewed me out for the reference of Hitler's Germany and Gestapoism here in the United States. And quite frankly, I think you've got to agree with me, Kyle. It is a reversion to the past that we lived through 70 years ago.
Well, I mean, when you have these, when you as a student voice your opinion, and it can range from an opinion about a public policy to an opinion about what someone is wearing, that ultimately is your opinion. And I would think that adults will be mature and strong enough to say, you know what, I don't care what you think about my clothes. I am confident enough in myself that I believe in myself. But when you're creating this environment where kids are hauled before this panel and they have to answer for their opinion about, whatever the case may be, I don't know what else you call that. I mean, that is just I don't know if it's a dictatorship, but it's very authoritarian. And so I understand why people don't like that term, because it is Gestapo and Nazi Germany, because that is a very loaded, that's a very loaded concept. On the other hand, I don't know what else you call that, because that's what it is.
Let me ask you this, Kyle, and you study this every day for your work. But let's talk just higher education here in this country with the colleges and universities right now. And I guess the only way to ask this is to put it in very succinct terms. Are colleges and universities absolutely beyond saving?
Well, because this thought mindset, I guess, is so institutionalized, I don't know why people would go. And so, because you look at the costs going up every year, and it's staggering how much kids are paying for degrees, and they're forced to go to all of these other courses that are totally irrelevant to what they want to pursue. But it's a racket, and it's a industry where we're giving room to that professor in California. I can't remember what campus she was at, where she was talking about Barbara Bush. Those are the sorts of people that are being propped up. That woman, in my judgment, would not be able to find a job anywhere else, because no one would be able to hold their nose and hire her, but on a college campus.
Right.
And yet, kids are forced to sit in her classroom because they're required to take all of these other courses that have no bearing on their degree.
Absolutely.
And what they actually want to pursue as a career.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's a racket, and that's why I think it's so important that kids look at all of their options. And, the education system has really disparaged for years, has disparaged skilled trades, and those sorts of jobs that don't require these 4-year degrees. And of course they do that because, well, then that affects, their power and their bottom line. But kids really, I think they really need to scrutinize, what am I actually going to gain from going to this university, spending $100,000, going into debt to get a degree to do what?
Yeah.
I think that every senior, every high school senior really needs to think about that and think about, is this going to benefit me, or am I just perpetuating the system?
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly. You're on the air. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd make a comment. I graduated from college decades ago, and I had a liberal Democratic professor. I couldn't please the guy until I bowed down and dropped out of the Young Americans for Freedom and made a big deal about that. And so, this has been going on. Whether you can save the colleges, I seriously doubt it, because if you don't go along with their deal, you don't get tenure in college. All of these professors that are getting tenure, they're all liberal leftists. And I'd like him to comment about that.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. Kyle, if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of these are public universities. It's one thing, and I know private universities, they get federal funding and that sort of thing, but generally speaking, they are, they are privately funded. But these public universities, University of Michigan is a good example. The taxpayers are footing the bill for a significant portion of that. And taxpayers have every right to voice their opinion and complaint about how the money's being spent, who is being hired, and all of those sorts of things. And so I think taxpayers, when they see these sorts of things, they have every right and duty to say something about what's going on.
Kyle, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about this morning is something that I was so enraged a couple of days ago when I listened to a Minnesota senator and a Minnesota congressman stand up at a podium and absolutely demean and diminish the value of our national motto, "In God We Trust." And they want it stricken from every school. They want it stricken from our currency and everything else. What in the world is going on here?
Well, it's interesting, yeah, because here we have it. It's in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's in the Supreme Court. It's on our money. It's our identity. And so there is this movement across the country to display "In God We Trust" in schools, which, seems like a pretty non-controversial thing because it's in so many places in our country. And yet this is a battle that the left is waging because the reality is they want to stamp out God from the public square, and they want government to be the God. And so this is a culture war that's playing out, and there have been a number of states, Arkansas, Florida, I believe Tennessee, a number of different states have passed these bills, are putting the motto in classrooms. It's interesting to see that it came up in Minnesota, and it doesn't surprise me that people are fighting it. But this is a culture war that we're battling, and I think the sides are very clear.
Let me ask you about this. I know you're very well versed in all aspects of educational stories, but when I start to hear about whether it's Cal State Fresno or whether it's Rutgers University or whether it's the University of Michigan, it doesn't make any difference, saying that they want to provide funding, my money and your money, for illegals to have a kind of a free path to going to school over and above our sons and daughters and grandchildren that are American citizens. What kind of a warped society are we living in?
Well, again, it's that battle that's waging, or that is being waged, and that's playing out, and that is why Donald Trump, I think, resonated with people, because he said America first, Americans first, and Americans are dreamers too. And that resonates because people see these sorts of things where universities are, and therefore taxpayers, are paying to benefit illegal immigrants, people who are in the country illegally. And and not only are they paying for it, but they're effectively taking resources and seats away from American students. And they're unhappy about it, and justifiably so. And so it's interesting to see a number of cities in California fighting against the sanctuary city law, and this is the fight that's playing out. And what's different, I think, is that people are organized and they're fighting back, and they're not just rolling over and taking it anymore. But this fight is being waged.
Kyle, one last story I wanted you to comment on this morning, and Wheels over at the station, we've got a little feedback there. I wanted you to comment, and I'm going to say my position first, and then I'll listen to yours. But I think we have developed idiocy within our schools, high schools, etc., when a mother can complain because her daughter did not make the cheerleading squad and yell and scream and rant and rave so that they change the rules and are forced to take almost everybody. What kind of incompetency is going on within our school systems? This is the lowest of the low.
Well, it shows, we have this idea that everyone is a winner, and if a parent screams and yells loud enough, then they can get the school to change. It's not that the students should work harder, or they should try harder, or maybe next year they will be able to make the team. It's that if I complain, if I yell and scream, and if I harass people and intimidate them, then I can get what I want. And what sort of message does that send to kids? A very bad one. And so, we see these sorts of stories all the time, and I think it's really important for parents, and I, as a parent of young children, have to think about, what is my behavior, what is my attitude about something, communicating, teaching my children. And I think all parents need to do that.
Absolutely. You know, Kyle, one quick question I had. We had many programs on the air regarding Michelle Obama and her rules and regulations that she wanted imposed on school lunches, etc. Has that situation kind of settled down and competency has prevailed? What's going on there?
Yeah, the Department of Agriculture essentially defanged the rules and basically said, you no longer have to stick to the rules to get the funding, because that's what they did. The Department of Agriculture under the Obama administration said, in order for you to get these reimbursements for the school lunch program, you have to stick to these rules of so much sodium and fat and all of that. And then the Trump administration came in and said, you can stick to those if you would like, but we are not going to threaten your funding. And so they basically return power to local communities, local school districts, local schools, so they can make the choice if they think those rules are in their best interest or if they want to create their own.
Absolutely. Great. Kyle Olson, eagnews.org. This man is absolutely the best at what he does. Kyle, God bless you and come back soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. I really appreciate and respect his knowledge on what's going on in academics and education across the United States. Kyle Olson, eagnews.org. The best. Thank you very much. Okay, we got to pay some bills here real quick, and I want to remind everybody about our dear, dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, manager, his family, and his staff, serving you and your family. With the passing of a loved one, everything just absolutely comes to a screeching halt, and you don't know, I don't know, nobody knows what has to be done in a short period of time. Please call them. They can and they will help you. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, 436-5636. Always treating you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Call them today, Hanson Mortuary. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Want to also remind everybody about some really good friends of ours that have been on the program for quite some time, and they really, really care about your dogs, kitty cats, roping steers, horses, everything. And that's Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Hayburn. And they're a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small. They love them all. And don't forget, too, now's the time to get your livestock all dewormed. And don't forget to get your pets vaccinated for flies and ticks. Yeah, it's coming. So get ready. And they got all the proper identification for your dogs, kitty cats, and everything else at Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street in Hayburn, and the number is 678-1177. They do have warm hearts for the cold noses. Absolutely. And don't forget to our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Hello, Jeff Bronson. You know, I have Jeff on the air quite a bit, and we talk about furniture, and we talk about window coverings, and we talk about carpeting and luxury vinyl planks and everything else. He is the encyclopedia of spruce up for springtime. Absolutely. They got all the furniture, the sofas, the love seats, the recliners, everything for the beautification and the comfort of your home. I urge you to stop in and see them today at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best. Wow. Okay, let's see where we're headed right now. I think it is time, if she's on the air. Let me check with my number one quarterback over at the board. Wheels, is the lovely Miss Vicky on the line?
Yes, sir, she is.
Do you mean to tell me she's waiting on me?
Oh, she's set to go.
Oh, thank you, Wills. Appreciate it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, through the miracle of radio sciences, we are going to beam our transmitter right over to Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Good morning, lovely Miss Vicky.
Good morning, Zeb. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood today.
You know, It is blue sky, sunshine, but I'm kind of a semi-optimist. I'm just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, we kind of get that way, don't we?
Oh, we do.
We have had a lot of nice. We needed the rain. I'm not arguing about the rain because it was a good solid rain. So everybody's gardens, if they didn't have them watered up, they should be watered up now.
Well, okay, but now right there is something to talk about, because I did have an email actually, and the lady wrote in and she says, "Whoa, with all this rain, should I back off and not water my lawn or garden for a couple of days?"
Yeah, you don't. I mean, there's no sense in watering gardens and lawns when that much with that kind of rain. You can give them a chance to dry out a little bit, saves a little water, and especially in your gardens, you do not want to get them too wet. If you get the seeds and that kind of stuff too wet, sometimes they rot in the ground.
Oh.
So you don't want to keep your garden too sloppy wet. So right now it's had some good moisture. Hopefully so far we haven't had any of the air blowing past us as fast as it normally does. And it will, the moisture is going to stay there. So just kind of give it some time. This time of year with the cooler nights and that, the water, your moisture doesn't evaporate as fast, so you don't need to keep that water going on a steady basis.
Okay, I had another letter. I'm going through a bunch of these letters and notes right now. Another lady wrote in, and I honestly don't know if we've ever talked about this on the program, but she said, "I am new to gardening, and everything that you and Vicki talk about, I take notes on," but she said, "When I plant my garden, how far apart should I plant everything, because won't their roots underneath the soil kind of kill each other off?" I'm kind of paraphrasing what she said in the letter, but I think it's a good question.
Well, the roots won't kill each other off. That's not the problem. It's just the plant above ground. They will grow together. You won't get the sunlight around your plants. You don't get your small plants will get shaded out and drowned out by your big plants. That's why you want to design your garden to where you have your large plants in one area, your squashes, those kind of things that take up a lot of room in a garden. Put them on the end of the garden so they've got room to grow. Put your potatoes, that's another big vine. So put that in a row to where it can do what it has to do. On the potatoes, you want to space them in between the rows. About 2 feet. You want to go about 24 inches in between them so that those plants can grow and not overpower one another. Then keep your beans and your smaller bushes out to where they can get plenty of sunlight and plenty of air, and you know when to water them and when not to.
Okay, now you brought up another subject that we were going to talk about this morning, too. A lady wrote and she said, and I'm going to be kind of snide like she was when she wrote the letter, "My husband wants to put the garden in the shade. He doesn't like to get out and work in the garden in the sun." And I said, "It's not good for the garden to be in the shade." Who's right?
Well, I don't blame him on the wanting to grow it in the shade. It's just that the gardens need the sunlight. They need at least 2/3 of a day of good sunlight. Then they can shade a little bit, and it's not a problem. But you cannot grow a decent garden in total shade. They just won't grow. They won't produce. They have to have the light hours to get the plants to produce and do what they're supposed to. And so, like I say, they need at least 2/3 of a day of good, full, bright, hot sun. And then if they shade up around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's not the end of the world at that point.
Now, another letter that we had earlier, we were talking about choking out plants and everything, but let me ask another question on my own. Are there certain varieties of garden plants, whether it's the beans, the peas, the radishes, whatever, that you really have to be careful and not put those too close to anything else, or is that not to worry about?
Well, yeah, that's what we was talking about with the squash, because you have squash vines that go, they can take over an area. And they'll grow right over the top of radishes, they'll grow right over the top of your beans, and they'll literally smother them because those great big leaves they don't allow the plants to get any sunlight.
Okay.
So that's why I say design your garden to where you've got your big vining things in an area down at the bottom of the garden where they can kind of grow together and do their own thing. You want to put your shorter crops like your beans, your radishes, onions, things like that, up in the area to where they're not getting crowded by any of your big plants.
Okay. Now, there was a lady from Twin Falls that sent me an email, and she said, would you please ask Vicki, are all fertilizers good for all plants, whether it's radishes, beans, etc., or do you have to be a little careful?
Well, you have to be a little careful to one extreme on gardens, and that you want fruit you want vegetables and fruit to produce, so you don't need high nitrogen. You don't want to use lawn fertilizer on your garden, because lawn fertilizer is for grass. You want grass to grow and stay green. You're not eating the grass, so you just want it to stay green and growing. So that's what the nitrogen does. It builds the plant. In any kind of a vegetable garden, you need the middle number, the phosphate. It needs to be a little higher than the rest of the numbers. You have three numbers on your fertilizer, and the first one's nitrogen, the middle one is phosphate, the last one is potash.
Okay.
And then you have trace minerals. But you want a good garden fertilizer on your gardens with that higher phosphate, so that you will get fruits and vegetables, not just leaves.
Okay, I got a note from a guy by the name of Bob. So, Bob, if you're listening, here's your question and Vicky's answer. He said, if I'm out hoeing my garden, do I have to really be careful that I don't do more harm than good?
Yeah, hoeing blight can be a real problem in a garden. You want to make sure you're getting the weeds. You got to make sure you know the difference between your plants and your weeds, because yes, you can hoe things out that aren't supposed to be hoed out, and you have to be really careful. It's not just if you've got weeds growing right down in next to your plants, it's best to reach down, unfortunately, by hand and pull them out that way. Because if you get too close with a hoe, you can take out your beans, your radishes, whatever. That type of thing.
When you look at the maintenance of a garden, depending upon the size, I'm sure, but Vicki, how many days a week or how many hours a day, et cetera, do people really have to spend in there to make sure the maintenance is up for a healthy crop?
Well, it kind of depends on how you lay your garden out. If you're using the weed mat in between the rows, that helps with a lot of your maintenance because your weeds don't grow. So then it's a matter of just watering properly, as far as that goes. But if you're not using the weed mat, it's really best to go out and at least every other day, go out and take the weeds out when they're little. Because if the weeds get big, what they do is they take away all your nutrient from your plants. They grow big and strong, and your vegetables and that sit there and struggle because they're having to fight for the food, with the weeds. So it's best to get them out when they're young and tender. It's easier to pull them or easier to hoe them at that point in time. So I recommend going out at least every other day and doing a nice, space it out across your garden if it's a big garden, and do part of it and then the part of it the next day or whatever. But it does require time to keep the weeds out. They are the predators in a garden.
Okay. Now, talking about predators, I know you talked about this about 2 weeks ago, but you've got your little bitty rodents and you got your ugly magpies and everything else. What can you do to protect all that stuff from those jerks?
Well, as far as the voles and that, they are a major problem again this year. We've got a big infestation of them in the area. We didn't have a winter hard enough to kill anything. There's different ways of doing it. We have a chemical. It's not really a chemical. It's actually a castor oil that you put around your garden, and they won't come near it. They won't cross it because they don't like that smell. It has been working and helping keeping the voles and that out of the gardens. Magpies and that, it's a real trick getting your seeds planted and getting them to come up before the magpies get them. There are things that you can put on, like a seed cover, row cover, that you put down, put your seeds in, take this kind of a real clear, it's kind of a milky, lightweight fabric that lets the light through and the water through, but not the magpie.
Boy, I tell you what.
The seeds come up.
Okay. Now, what about a couple of weeks ago we were concerned because of the cold weather and the wind was howling and the rain's now falling and everything. Can they go ahead and plant almost virtually everything in the garden now?
You're pretty safe right now to pretty much plant everything, yes. Ground temperatures are up there good now, and hopefully we are past of course, we've always got Memorial Day that everybody says, oh, Memorial Day is always bad, and sometimes it is. But, right now you would be pretty well safe enough to go ahead and plant pretty much everything. Corn can go in now. Beans can go in now. Pretty much everything can go in the gardens now, the tomatoes and the peppers and everything.
Okay.
Just same old thing. Just have cover handy in case we get these. Well, they had hail the other night over in Hayburn and Burley with that big storm that come through. So, we have the thunderstorms out there looming. We know they're out there. That means usually high wind and sometimes hail and hard rain. Those are the things that can do the damage. But we have those throughout the whole summer. So you got to bite the bullet sooner or later and plant and just hope for the best.
Yeah. Okay, now I understand that you've got new shipments of perennials over there.
We do. We've gotten in two and got another one coming, but we've got 2 nice shipments of perennials, some very nice perennials that can go out blooming, ready to put some color in the yards. And the perennials are the ones that come back every year. So if you're wanting to take away some of the work, come in and see about the perennials. We got some perennials for the shade areas, for the hot sun, and all of that type of thing, and more coming, too. So
okay.
As they become available, we've got more coming in.
And a lot of people are into trees and shrubbery and all kinds of things. Have you got a lot of shrubs over there?
We've got a fair amount of shrubs in right now. Got some nice trees, nice ornamental trees. We got hibiscus plants in now, which are gorgeous shrubs to put in your yards, hydrangeas for that all-summer color. And they are perennials and that type of thing. And but yeah, we have all of that kind of stuff, and it's a great time to get your raspberries, strawberries, blackberries, currants, all those kind of things in right now before the weather gets too hot. Get them in and get them going.
21 years in business. Did you ever anticipate that you would be in business at Vicky's Country Garden 21 years and getting bigger and bigger?
No. To be honest, no, I didn't. But here I am. So I'm here for the long haul. Let's put it that way.
Okay, now what about the hours over there? You overwork yourself. You need to take a little time off and sit in the lounge chair and have somebody wait on you.
That would be a cool idea. It doesn't seem to work this time of year. I got to wait for a little later in the year to do that. But our hours are Monday through Saturday. We're here 9 to 6, and usually later than that, depending on what the needs of the community is. And we're open on Sundays now, 11 to 3. And if you need later hours or something, just call me, make an appointment with me, and I'm usually here I was here till 11:30 last night. So
oh my,
I'm around to where if I need to load some bark or something, I can sure do it on different hours.
All right, now it's time for the Vicky's Country Garden Gardening Tip of the Week.
All right, let's get those gardens in and go and get your seeds planted, get everything in, and then get your fertilizers going on there so that we can all have a really good year. I think we're going to have a good garden year. Looks like the fruit's going to set on good, so let's get prepared for a heck of a year.
Well, Vicki, I always enjoy talking to you because you tell it like it is. And the lovely Miss Vicki at Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Number to call, 438-5663. Vicki, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Monday, or Tuesday, pardon me. Thank you.
All right, that'll work, Zeb. Have a good week.
All right, thank you much. Always enjoy and learn from that lady every week on the program, Vicky's Country Garden, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Right now, we're going to open the phone lines up and ask you to give us a call and talk about any subject you want to at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We're going to run a weather forecast right now, and the weather is brought to you by Phillips Oaks Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. I got to tell you, these folks really know. These folks really care about you, your family, your business, and your taxes, and they provided accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, payroll services, retirement planning, and so much more. With offices in Burley and Rupert, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Expect typical mid-spring weather for today and, honestly, for the rest of the week. Here's your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms off and on for today under partly cloudy skies. Slightly breezy winds out of the east, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 73. Tonight, more isolated showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly cloudy skies with a low of 47. Tomorrow, just photocopy today. Slight chance of rain showers and thunderstorms off and on throughout the day. Partly sunny skies, breezy, and a high of 74. For Wednesday night, we are expecting a low of 46. For Thursday, no change. Slight chance of rain or thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly sunny skies with a high of 74. As we take a sneak peek at Friday, again, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the forecast with a high of 67. That's your weather forecast for us up at the ranch.
And thank you, Gina. We appreciate it. Brought to you by the people that really know about taxes and helping you, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. I urge you to get a hold of them. We do. And you should. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. Like I said, they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. All right, we've got time for some calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244. We'll talk about anything. Today is voting day. And I'd like to hear, maybe you've gone to the polls already this morning and voted. Maybe you'd like to make a comment. Somebody out there that's been to the polling places, call me and let me know. Are there a continual stream of people going in, or is it very sketchy? I urge you to go vote today in Idaho's primary. Please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, quickly, give me a call. And anybody that has gone to the polls, let me know what the status is at the polls. I'd appreciate hearing from you. Right now, I'd also like to remind you about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. The very best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more for you, your family, and your business. These folks at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, very dedicated and responsive to your needs, so give them a call, make an appointment at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. All right, your turn. Come on, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to go back a little bit and talk about that New Jersey high school that basically one mother complained, my daughter didn't make the cheerleading squad. Everybody's got to change the rules right now. I demand it. And they did. What are your thoughts about this? You know, I could be very, very calloused, and I could say, and I would stand behind, that if that were the case, then the school maybe should say, listen, if you're trying to change the rules to where everybody qualifies and there are no restrictions and there are no picking the best for the job, then we're going to cancel the whole doggone program. There won't be any cheerleaders. And in some instances, I think that would be a lot better off for various schools. It's about time parents help their children grow up and really understand what real life is all about, instead of making excuses for them and making an easy way for them. That daughter of the mother that complained and demanded that the rules are going to be changed, I don't know if she's suffering from the scrutiny and the behind-the-back scenes and talk about her and her mom now, but she will. And she certainly didn't learn anything about real life and working hard to earn a position. Not when mommy dear says, you got to take my daughter, I'll sue you. Well, by golly, we got to change the rules. Nobody wins anything in that kind of circumstance. Everybody loses. And unfortunately, we've had some of those stories almost similar to this happen right here in this area. And it's disgusting, and really the kids in the long run are going to be the losers. Your thoughts, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call. There is so much to do in outdoor Idaho. And so much to see. I mean, I know the South Hills probably is good or better than most people because I'm up there all the time. And every time I go up there, I see something new or I just appreciate something more. And if you haven't got a four-wheeler or a side-by-side, I know a place that you should go, and they can and they will help you. And that's Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4. All the four-wheelers. I don't know how they got everything crammed into that showroom. And a great accessory department. Randy and Nick, the whole crew over there waiting to serve you. And then don't forget, too, to keep you running, they've got a great service department. All of this at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And it's true, this is where the fun is sold. All right, your turn. Come on. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I am going to make an announcement here, and I'm not going to elaborate on it, but I just want to tell you folks, as an audience, you mean so much to me, and your thoughts and your prayers are always so dear to Deanne and I will not be on the program tomorrow. There will not be a Zeb at the Ranch program tomorrow on Wednesday. And due to the fact that we are not going to be on the air tomorrow, we will be back on Thursday. God help us. I certainly think we will be back on Thursday. There are some things that have to be addressed for my lovely bride. And due to the fact that all this came up in kind of a short order, we will not be having Lunch Bunch on Thursday. And I hope you'll understand and appreciate the fact that my lovely wife comes first, above everything. And so, therefore, I will not be on the air tomorrow. I want to say my big thank yous, and I mean this. I called Kim Lee, the owner of the stations, and I said, Kim, here's the situation. And Kim jumped right in with both feet and took care of it. No problem. And Gina, the other one at the station, jumped in with both feet, said we'll take care of it. And I want to say a big thank you to Kim and Gina for being so understanding. And I hope you as the Lunch Bunch and everybody else will understand that we will not have Lunch Bunch this month. It's been canceled, and we'll get everything put back together, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
They hung up, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. A little patience with me when I'm making an announcement, and I'll get you right on the air, I promise. And by the way, I don't want to forget Old Wheels over at the station, doing a tremendous job and very, very helpful, and we appreciate him. Thank you very much. I got time for one or two calls, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call. This note is coming up in, let's see, what's the date on this event? I've got to check it here. It's going to be on June 2nd, which really is not that far away. But my dear friend George Mass asked me if I would mention this, and I'm going to have it on the air quite a few times. The 4th annual Idaho Roll Call Memorial Ride will take place June 2nd, and it's going to be at the 7th and Scott Street in Rupert. Come early for the food. Program's going to be at 1 o'clock at the Idaho Roll Call Monument. And I think the riders, all the motorcycle riders, are going to meet at Let's Ride in Rupert, and kickstands up at 9:30, and let's support our fallen. And this is going to be the 4th annual Idaho Roll Call Memorial Ride on June 2nd, and we will have a lot more about this in upcoming programs. As I mentioned earlier this morning, And my dear friends have walked in the door, and they're going to be ready to go here in a few minutes. Gary and Bev Stone, and they've written so many books, and they've had so many stories, and Gary's artwork has depicted exactly what's took place and has taken place on the Oregon Trail with all of our pioneers moving westward out of Missouri. What I asked them to do, and due to the fact that we had our political ads curtailed for today, voting day, and I wanted something a little bit different than just politics all the time. So I asked Bev and Gary to come out on the program this morning and kind of give us a thumbnail sketch of what it was like for the pioneers to get ready to leave St. Joseph, Missouri, and head west. Did they have any idea what to take? Did they have any idea about the wagons and the livestock and everything else? And some of the perils and pitfalls that they had along the way. Well, they're going to be talking about that this next hour. We're going to kind of have a little trilogy all combined into one day as to what it was like to be and try to survive on the Oregon Trail, headed all the way out here to Idaho and possibly beyond into the Oregon Territory. So that's coming up this next hour. So stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you very much to all of our friends, all of our listeners. You are a member of our family. God bless you and yours. Right now, we're going to send this back over to Wheels a minute early, but I'm going to visit with Bev and Gary a little bit. We'll be back in a couple of minutes after CBS News. Good morning and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on what is this? Tuesday, May 15th, voting day. As we've been telling you, everybody should go to the polls and pick the best candidate of your choice for our primary elections here in the state of Idaho. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And don't forget, if you're going on a road trip, they've got all the tires and everything else, the best in brake service, front end alignments, everything at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And when it comes to some of our great advertisers, don't forget to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. I have 2 friends in the studio that I have the utmost respect for because of what they've done and still what they're doing, and they have the knowledge of what really took place over 150, 60, 70 years ago with our pioneers coming across westward from St. Joe, Missouri, all the way to Idaho and Oregon, etc. And they are Bev and Gary Stone. Good morning, and how are both of you?
Good morning. Well, pretty good.
Good.
Good morning.
You know, it is so good to have you on the air, and I talked to you about, I think it was about a month ago, about maybe creating a program, kind of a trilogy, if you would, of people that went to St. Joe, Missouri, loaded up and had no clue what their lives were going to be like for the next 4 to 5 months, etc., and where they were going to end up. How would you like to start this story of the Oregon Trail? What do you think is the best way to start it off?
Well, what I do when I go to the schools to set it up for the kids,
okay,
our spoiled children of today,
I agree.
I tell them, okay, now let's pretend we're going to play this little role, and we're going to turn the clock back, and you pretend that you're living in an area that doesn't have a lot of people in it, but you're on a farm, and you don't have a lot to do. You're always working, but there's no towns where you can really go to. But the big deal is one day your dad comes home and he says, I've heard about some free land over in Oregon, and we're going to go to Oregon, and we're going to pack up and move west. And the kids might say, well, we don't want to, and the wife starts to complain, but nobody has a vote in the family in those days. What Dad said is what happened. And it would be like today, in a sense, if your dad came home and said, we're moving, and we're going to sell everything we own. You can take 1 or 2 changes of clothing, and you can take 1 toy, no Nintendos, no electronics, nothing, and we are going to move to New York City. We're going to pack everything we can into the station wagon. but there will be no room for you to ride. You're going to walk all the way to New York City.
Bev, let me ask you this, and pardon my interruption, but when you say things this morning, I'm so enthused about what you're talking about. I want to learn more myself. Who told them, the pioneers, what they may need or not need? Who told them what to have? I mean, how did they know?
Well, the thing is the way they lived. That in that day and age, the way they actually lived, they knew totally different times. They knew a certain amount about food preservation. The word they had came actually from mountain men.
Really?
Retired mountain men led a lot of the wagons west.
How did they find out, if you don't mind, that, we got to go to St. Joe, Missouri, there's going to be a wagon train? I mean, were there pamphlets? There wasn't radio or TV back in those days. How did they know?
Word of mouth and certain ads that were placed in newspapers about land and the opportunity to go north, and that they were leading trains from Missouri.
Okay.
And people, they were told that they needed a good sturdy wagon. Conestogas were the recommended. And in those early days, the travel was a lot more difficult because the trail, as such, was open ground. There were no trails per se, except Indian trails, and so they kind of had to break trail in many ways.
Well, let me ask you this question. I would imagine, then, Gary, I think you've had some paintings in your books, etc., regarding this, that when they got to St. Joe and they found out what they had to have, I mean, they might have spent their literal life's fortune trying to stock up on equipment, right?
Exactly. They were told they needed oxen. Because they're sturdy animals. They were told to prepare for a 2 or 3 month journey, which pretty much turned into 6.
Wow.
And they were told to carry everything that they could in preservatives form. They had, dried foods and stuff, and they used to store meat and such in barrels of lard or certain items packed in salt as a preservative, but all of those things would only last a certain length of time.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, 30 days out and they're done, right?
That's about it. They had to rely on wild game and stuff they could acquire along the way as much as anything.
What about livestock? As far as you mentioned the oxen, which were the preferred brutes to pull the wagon, etc.
Right.
But what about horses? What if they had a dairy cow? What if they had some pigs, chickens, etc.? No?
They tried to take them along, and a lot of them did. Chickens were packed in crates, and a lot of them became food.
Well, I can imagine,
Yeah. And the same with pigs. Animals are pretty durable, and if they get their food along the way in the water, they can do a lot of things. But they also took dairy cows because they needed milk along the way. Some of them took... they had a certain amount of fruit. They always took flour and sugar and coffee,
Gary,
beans.
I want to ask Gary this question from the male standpoint. I mean, did the husbands in general, from the diaries and everything that you folks have read, were they prepared to be that much of a provider to their family as far as being the carpenter to fix everything, possibly to be the doctor and everything? How did they know what to do?
Well, and that's interesting. A lot of the guys you'd think would be good hunters.
Yeah.
And take a rifle.
Not me. They'd have starved to death.
Well, and that's the way it was. It was finally they'd get out there maybe 6 months into this whole thing and almost where they're going and have to have somebody else finish up for them.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite a deal where they did a lot of hunting.
Yeah.
It is. The kids picked berries along the way. Kids were, in those days, kids had to really work to provide. Going across the plains, there was nothing as a source for firewood, so they had to burn buffalo chips.
Well, let me ask you this question. And, they get everything set to go in St. Joe, Missouri. That was kind of the stepping off point, was it not?
Right.
Okay, and what were the average size, if there was such a thing, of wagon trains? I mean, did they try to keep it to a certain number, or what happened there?
In the beginning, the trains were mostly comprised of families or people who knew each other, close friends, that thing, and they were relatively small trains.
So, like how many wagons?
7 to 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe a few more.
See, I would have thought you might have said 25 or 30 or something like that.
That came later on.
Oh, it happened later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you got a wagon train of 7 to 10 wagons and maybe, 50 people, 60 people, something like that?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Who did they hire to be their guide? I mean, how did they find somebody that was reputable to be their guide?
That was the big problem.
That was a problem.
Really?
Mm-hmm. There actually were pamphlets printed by shysters, bad
they
people.
had shysters in those days.
They'd send them out 40 miles off the main trip to look for grass and silly things and it just wasn't there.
Really?
A lot of false stuff written.
So a lot of the people that were supposedly guides weren't.
That's right. The mountain men are the ones that Meek comes to mind first. They had been out as mountain men before, and they knew what trails to take, what shortcuts to take. Going over the Continental Divide was a huge thing, and everybody worried about that, thinking of the Teton Mountains, whereas it wasn't at all. The mountain men knew of that safer crossing that we still use.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but I got to ask this question because you're mentioning the mountain men came back and perhaps were hired as guides.
Right.
Did they have a lot of this on paper or parchment or maps, or was it all up here?
It was up here.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know of any of them that I've ever read that wrote anything.
I'll tell you.
People wrote about them.
Oh, my goodness.
One really quick story that always stuck in my mind because it was so funny. This mountain man, his last name was Thing. I've never read anything about him except in this diary. I don't think he was a real mountain man, but he got him west as far as on the other side of Pocatello.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they got in the hills back in there, and all of a sudden he couldn't find his way, and they spent over a week wandering around, having no idea where they were going, and finally when they reached the tops of some of the hills they could see Fort Hall down there.
Yeah.
And when they saw the fort, they knew they were saved, but they were nearly to the point of starvation and thirst. And
I can't imagine the mindset of, let's just take my family, when Jake and Toby were still here at home. And all of a sudden I came home one day and I said, well, we're going to go to St. Joe, Missouri, and then we're going to take off on a wagon train. Where are we going, Dad? Well, I'm not sure.
That's
well,
right.
What can we take, Dad? Well, not very much. Man, wow, that's a big leap right there.
It was a big leap.
Yeah.
But they were very used to Dad making all decisions. Oh, and I should tell you that cutoff that they took, that they all got lost and everything, they named it Things Cutoff.
Things Cutoff. I'll
Captain
be darned.
Thing.
How many, let's kind of progress along the trail. When they headed up and moved them out, kind of like Rawhide and Gil Favor, out of St. Joe, Missouri, how many miles did they try to make in an average day to accomplish their goals of reaching maybe Oregon in 4 months or 5 months?
Well, they tried to go about 20 miles a day.
20 miles a day?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
It depended on the weather, on the circumstances, on food, on water.
For the livestock.
For their livestock, absolutely did. But many of them made 20 miles a day.
Now, one of the misconceptions, and I thank both of you for educating me on this. A long time ago, we sat and talked about the Oregon Trail and everything, and it wasn't just a straight line approach, was it? Because they had to branch out and find the forage for their livestock.
Exactly.
Explain that just a little bit.
That's exactly right. The most important thing, besides food for themselves, was for the livestock.
Right.
They did not bring food to feed the livestock, per se. It wasn't possible, so they had to graze along the way. And if they didn't have enough food, then they had to go out a little further until they could find food. There
was a lot of variance going west. It might have been north and a lot south and everything else.
Right. They had scouts that would go scout ahead and see if they could find water and a place to camp and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Especially in the early trains, it was really scary. As later trains came through, there was a kind of a more a route of travel that was more accepted.
Right. But now, here's a dumb question I've never asked you before. A lot of people think like Ward Bond on Wagon Train, the old 60s TV Western. They just headed out for Oregon. Well, how many times during the course of the spring were other wagon trains going out also? How many different trains were leaving to go to the West Coast?
There's no way to say how many exactly. Everybody who had a notion to go was going.
Okay.
And they waited until, April, the last of April, because then the grass on the prairies would be coming up and they knew there would be food.
Right.
So they had to wait until the latter part of April, first part of May, and as soon as they could gather and get their stuff to readiness, they just headed out.
And they had to be really watchful and wary of the weather conditions all the time, didn't they?
All the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I told you earlier about 7 to 10 wagons, as the word spread and got out, and particularly after gold was discovered in California, they then became such large trains that one diarist said, as we were leaving the St. Joe area, the head wagon was camping for the night.
Oh, really?
So now that is a long train.
Well, now, what did they do? What did they do, Gary and Bev, if all of a sudden you had a smaller group, let's say 7 to 10 wagons as opposed to a larger wagon train, and you come up on the larger wagon train and they've grazed and diminished everything? I mean, what did they do? Did they have to divert and go quite a lot of miles out of their way, or what did they do?
That's right. They'd have to find a drainage where water would come down and follow it upstream in hopes of finding something for their critters.
And then eventually get back on the main route. But now, were they ever allowed, I guess allowing is a bad word, but did they pass the longer train, or...
Yes, they would.
Was there some kind of a protocol that said you couldn't?
No.
Okay.
No,
they spread out.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people, especially after gold was discovered, were in a particular hurry, and there are excerpts in the diaries that talk about people being in such a hurry to get past them that later on, though, those people's animals would have given out, and then they would pass them back on the trail.
Well, now, let's talk a little bit about living on the trail. I mean, hygiene, I can imagine it got a little lax on hygiene, and water supplies were diminished, and food. Give us a little story about that.
It had to be rough.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely had to be rough. There was... particularly out on the prairies, no place for cover. People had to just put their pride in a basket, so to speak, and do what they had to do and do the best they could.
I see.
And in those days, they tried to be perhaps more considerate of each other. It wasn't such a grab it and go thing until after the gold rush started, and then it was every man for himself.
So we're talking about 1849 in that area, the gold rush, and everybody was in a hurry to get to California and make their millions, etc. But you mentioned civility. Was civility taking a back seat to the pioneers? I mean, as far as being kind to each other and worrying about each other, or was it every man for itself?
They took care of each other. Yeah. In order to survive, you had to help your neighbor. You're out there in the middle of nowhere. Somebody's wagon breaks down, and they are an integral part of helping find food and water, besides consuming it.
An extra broken wagon wheel.
Yeah. They may be a better blacksmith. Everybody kind of had their own blacksmith in the train because people knew how to do those repairs, and many of them carried extra metal on the running gears of the wagons so they could make repairs.
I see.
And the problem was if they broke a wagon tongue, finding that hardwood to make a new wagon tongue somewhere out in the middle of nowhere was pretty hard.
What about, now you folks have dedicated your lives, literally, to finding out the historical value of the Oregon Trail, and Gary, your paintings are absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
Explaining the life on the Oregon Trail, but you pretty much know, because of some of the diaries that you've been able to come in contact with, honestly, what happened.
That's true. Everything I really have learned is from the diaries, what they had to say. Not everyone kept diaries, but those who did managed to say a lot in a very few sentences.
What did you learn, both of you, about the pioneers from reading those diaries? You must know more, honestly, about their personalities and their lifestyle than even they knew.
Yeah, things that happened to them that we would consider a big problem.
Yeah.
They kind of took in stride as just a matter of daily living.
Like what?
Well, for instance, if you're chaining up your animals every day, they have those tugs that you attach to the wagons and the horses and all of that stuff. Well, okay, fingers got caught, feet got stepped on.
Oh, yeah.
Bones broken.
Tongues broke, wagons ran over legs or feet or stuff, and but that was part of their daily thing. They just, you have broken fingernails we complain about, but they lost parts of fingers. They were so bruised and cut and broken all the time that they just accepted it as part of the daily routine.
Did they come from, they being the pioneers, did they come from all walks of life to get away and go to the new part of the United States?
That's an interesting question. Most of them had the rich ones had a Conestoga wagon. Most of them came in their old family wagon that they had on
So
their
basically
farms.
an open-top wagon.
Right.
Freight wagon. They managed to make, tops for them. They had to have a cover.
Yeah.
And they used, what did they use? They had a special thing they used to paint them with to help waterproof them.
Some kind of a tarp liquid that would waterproof
like lard or something like
see.
that. They had a lot of tricks of the trade that were their daily routines that, of course, sound absolutely
I like the way they
us.
made butter. They would take a can of cream after they milked their milk cow that they brought along and hook it on the back of the wagon, and by the time they went 12 miles to 20 miles to their next stop,
it was butter.
It was butter.
And let's talk a little bit about the food. I've got a commercial break coming up here in about 2 minutes. So what about their eating meals, like breakfast, maybe a noon lunch if they stopped, or a supper? I mean, was it the same every time all the time, or was there any variance? What was it?
Beans and jerky.
Really?
Yeah, and biscuits. They got really good at making biscuits in the top of the flour bag.
I see.
You could just mix a little stuff in there and make dough.
And mix it until it gets good and take it out of the bag.
Question, were they hungry, or?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They were hungry all the time?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely were. When they got over into certain areas where food was more plentiful, like when they crossed over the divide,
right,
and the waters all started toward the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
They ran then into things like more fish.
I see.
And they had berries, and they had more fruits available. They tried about everything that they could eat.
Did they ever have the leisure? And I know from your book, Stone by Stone on the Oregon Trail, I mean, it looked like once they started, there was no time for personal time. It was go, go, go. Is that right?
Well, to a degree, but they would have huge dances at night.
After all that walking, they could dance?
And they'd all get together, put on the best clothes they had with them, and they'd dance. A lot of them would do that.
Keep the mood elevated.
And early settlements, even around here, the little cafe in Murtaugh, that went away. I just mentioned to Bev how much I like to stop and visit with people there. They all have a little story to tell about the Oregon Trail and their parents, and it's just fun to go out and mix with the people that's across the countryside.
Wow. And so basically they held on to their humanity in the evenings and tried to at least act civilized and have fun with one another.
And their religion.
Real quick, the thing, I know you're probably going to laugh at this, but I'm concerned about their footwear. What in the world could they wear that would stand up on the rocks and everything else to go clear to Oregon?
It was pretty hard.
It was tough, but they had a blacksmith that would probably have a cobbler's.
Well, they made their own shoes.
Lasts.
Really?
Yeah, they had to.
Wow.
You've seen those little shoe lasts, they call them, with different sizes to them. They didn't fit your exact foot exactly, unless they were using moccasins.
Right.
But they had leather that they could use. The tougher leather for the soles, and they had ways of sewing them up, and they made their own shoes.
Oh, my goodness. Stand by just a few moments, and right now I also want to remind you, on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days that's brought to everyone by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, a family store. From everything from the baby furniture to the baby clothing, all the way up to the Cherokee scrubs. All of this and so much more at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, and along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley for your outpatient surgeries, life-saving colonoscopies, and so much more. Please call and find out how they can save you money. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County at 10:10 on Thursdays right here on Zeb at the Ranch. We're going to send it back over to our main studios for these announcements and be back with more with Bev and Gary Stone in just a couple of minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Let me tell you about my old friend Scott Gano Landscaping and Tree Trimming at 336 South, 450 west of Hayburn. Oh, with all the wind we've had lately, I'll tell you what, they can help your tree and shrub damage. And don't forget, for landscaping ideas, you get a hold of them today. They are the best at what they do. The number to call, 438-2485, or Scott's cell, 431-8733. Scott Gano Landscaping and Tree Trimming at 336 South, 450 west of Hayburn. You get a hold of him today. And don't forget, too, our good friends with Lennox, and as soon as I find the right paper, I'll tell you about it. Airvana is defined as the ultimate level of comfort you'll achieve with the presence of a new Lennox home comfort system. And when you buy a Lennox system at Ramsey Heating and Electric, you can get up to $1,700 in rebates. Airvana is just another way to make you feel better, so call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459 or visit them online at Ramsey'sOnline.com. We are sitting in the studio with a couple of dear friends of mine, Bev and Gary Stone, and I dare say there is no one anywhere that knows as much about the Oregon Trail and the traveling on the Oregon Trail as they do. As a matter of fact, let's quickly talk about this. You've kind of devoted, like I said earlier, your life to understanding and educating yourselves on really what took place on the Oregon Trail.
Yes, and it was kind of by accident, honest to gosh. When we purchased some ground north of Kimberly and discovered that there were ruts and stuff that the Oregon Trail had gone through
When you found those ruts, pardon my interruption, Bev, please forgive me,
That's
but
okay.
Did you have any inkling that was from the travelers on the Oregon Trail?
Well, we kind of guessed it, but we found out later from other people, and particularly Claire and Virginia Ricketts.
Really?
They knew a lot about that Oregon Trail. And
Virginia was an outstanding student of history, wasn't
yes,
she?
she was. She discovered the North Side alternate and wrote a piece on it, but couldn't get anyone to listen to her at the time, so we put her article in our book.
I see.
As one of the chapters.
So these ruts, are they still there today?
Oh,
Very
yeah.
much. Most of
on
them
our
are.
property.
Really?
We preserved sections.
There's
of
ways, certain rocks, they have sort of a mark on them. You have to know what you're looking for in a sense, but they call them bruises from wagon wheels.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not, after
Wow.
over a certain amount of travel.
So you literally had, from 175 years ago, people going right through your front yard.
Oh, yeah.
In essence, that's very true. And I still find things that had to have come from there.
Really?
Yeah, just as recently as maybe a couple of years
I
ago.
was out there in one spot. There was an old saw blade laying on top of a rock, and it was had over a period of time it bent itself to fit the rock. It was like a piece of wet noodle on a rock.
Really?
And all rusty, and I picked that up, and I looked around me, and it looked like an old camp.
Really?
Yeah, just a little imagination and you could have everything.
When you find these artifacts and you have the diaries to back up what took place and everything, you almost get the feeling that you knew these people, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's real personal.
Absolutely. I felt like I knew those people. There's one particular diary writer. She was so eloquent and so dedicated to writing in the diary, and their story, their wagon master, their captain, didn't make it to Oregon.
I see.
And the stuff that they went through on the way there, when I read that he died from an illness on the Columbia River, because at that time they were rafting down the river.
Oh, my.
They didn't have the
Mount Hood route.
Yeah.
The Barlow Road wasn't done
Oh,
yet.
my goodness.
Anyway, he died, and I cried. I sat there and bawled like a baby, and I could not help it. I felt so sorry for them.
What was the, getting off track a little bit here, but both of you have studied these diaries and you've written your books based on these diaries and everything. What was the education of these people? I mean, were they, some of them, highly educated and could really express themselves?
Yes.
Really?
Doctors in buggies, not Conestogas. And they would have a troop of people to take care of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. A lot. They're very wealthy.
I see.
Yeah, they...
All of them went to California.
But Gary, be defining there. They were very wealthy, but their wealth didn't mean anything on the trail, did it?
No.
But their education
No,
did.
you get real
to some
even with
degree.
everybody.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did they have kind of a snobby attitude at times with other people on the trail?
I don't know that I ever saw that actually recorded. There were people that they didn't like each other for different reasons, but not to be better than thou, so to speak.
There was one couple that they come along together across on the Oregon Trail and got to Raft River, that's where it split and went to California, and the other ones went straight on to Oregon.
I'm assuming you're talking about the Oregon Trail and the California Trail.
Correct.
I see.
Where they left Raft River.
Okay.
So when they got to Raft River, they all bid each other farewell, we'll see you another life and everything. They went about 10 miles and turned around and went back with the other ones and went to Oregon because they had made such good friends with them. And everybody was thrilled to death that they decided Oregon's the new place, not California.
You know, we hear a lot, and I've got to get into this in the time remaining. Time goes way too fast. God bless you folks for coming out. But what were the biggest scares, the biggest hardships, and the biggest worries for the pioneers? How would you define that?
It depends on the time period. In the beginning, the fear of the unknown, that was like they were going to Mars, as we would feel it today.
Yeah.
There were things out there, but they didn't know what. They knew about Indians, but the Indians in the beginning were much more helpful than they were antisocial.
See, I think you should express that because I think television and movies have portrayed, I don't think fairly, the Indians as being wanting to wipe out wagon trains and massacre everybody, because it really wasn't like that in the beginning, like you stated.
No. This is the way I tell the kids. Okay, you have this beautiful yard and garden, and you get your food out of this garden, and yet there's kids that walk across that garden, and they're making this big path through the garden, and they're picking up the food as they go, and you don't like them to do that, and you tell them to stop, and they don't stop. They just keep doing it and keep doing it. And so finally you get angry, and you come to fisticuffs or some way to make them stop. And that's exactly what happened with the Indians.
Really?
The white men were coming through, and at first they didn't think too much about it, but it kept on. Year after year, every spring, here they come again. And they were killing the buffalo. They were consuming the grass that the buffalo needed. They were bringing diseases that absolutely emaciated the tribes. They just absolutely wiped out the Indians with smallpox, particularly.
The whole Blackfoot tribe was wiped out.
Were there friends made between the whites, the settlers, the pioneers, and the Indians that were lasting relationships, though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially right here in our valley.
Right here in southern Idaho.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Indian Joe was one that...
I've heard that name. Didn't he live over further west?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Out toward Salmon Dam.
Right.
But I always grinned one time there. I was told by an old cowboy that down in the Hawaii's about Indian Joe had a squaw. And his whole duty was to go down the road where the wagons full of hay would be, and any wisp of that hay that fell off the wagons, he would scoop up and put on his wife's back. And they said by the time they'd go 4 or 5 miles, she would be packing so much hay on her back they'd have to stop. But it's just a different way of life.
Different culture.
Different culture.
Yeah.
Totally.
When they stopped in the evening for rest, and all the animals, I'm assuming, were driven into perhaps a small quasi-circle of the wagons, etc., and allowed to graze and everything. I mean, what you said 20 miles a day. Now, that's a lot of getting up early and getting going with the program. I mean, boy, every day, 7 days a week. Yeah. Wow. So they tried to possibly make 140 miles a week, roughly?
Well, I don't think they ever set it in like we have a certain distance to cover.
But did they know where they had to be at certain times, or they were going to get hit with the snow?
I think it was 100% guesswork.
Yeah.
Really?
Unless they had a guide that knew.
Depending on their scouts.
Okay.
Yeah. Except maybe in the later years of travel, like perhaps after the Civil War, there was an influx again over the Oregon Trail. Mm-hmm. And people headed west to start new lives.
And in our case, the Kelton Road from Salt Lake once in 1869 when the railroads joined, then that changed everything.
Okay.
So people could ride the train to Kelton and catch a stagecoach to Rock Creek. That was the primary spot. Rock Creek was the only settlement between Fort Hall and Fort Boise.
What was the duration, years-wise, of the Oregon Trail being so prominent and so heavily traveled? Was it 10 years, 12 years? I mean, what were we looking at as far as a real influx of people traveling on the Oregon Trail?
Most of them was early, before 1849, and when 49ers discovered gold, everything.
So it was that early.
Oh yeah.
I think I have a picture in my mind's eye.
1843 is
really in my mind's eye from movies and television. Unfortunately, we always think of the Ward Bond wagon train, where 1870s, etc. Was it pretty much over by then?
After the Civil War, there was another influx.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people starting new lives. People from the South had nothing left. And so they all moved west. We have a lot of Southern names in our whole area. You know?
Really?
Yeah. And the little mining camps and stuff that sprang up, there was a lot of animosity yet between North and South. And the streets were named for the Confederate generals and the Union generals.
The miners up north. One was the Ulysses mine, and the other one was the Grant mine. And
wow. I want to talk to you, and when we come back after the weather here, about things we take for granted today versus what they didn't have at that time. So stay tuned just a minute. Right now it's time for our weather, brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Absolutely delicious meats, whether you want the marinated prime ribs or the smoked hams or the different types of bacon or breakfast sausages, bratwurst, my favorite, all of this and so much more at Scarro's Meats in Jerome. That number again, 324-7657. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Expect typical mid-spring weather for today and, honestly, for the rest of the week. Here's your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. Scattered rain, showers, and thunderstorms off and on for today under partly cloudy skies. Slightly breezy winds out of the east, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 73. Tonight, more isolated showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly cloudy skies with the low of 47. Tomorrow, just photocopy today. Slight chance of rain, showers, and thunderstorms off and on throughout the day. Partly sunny skies, breezy, and a high of 74. For Wednesday night, we are expecting a low of 46. For Thursday, no change. Slight chance of rain or thunderstorms in the forecast. Mostly sunny skies with a high of 74. As we take a sneak peek at Friday, again, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the forecast with a high of 67. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road. Jerome, Don Scarrow, and his excellent staff. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Today, in 2018, if I'm hungry and we don't have any groceries that I like, I'll run to the store and pick up whatever I like. If I have a urgent need for some ice cream, which I don't need, but I sometimes do, I'll run to the store and pick it up. Or if I'm cold, I'll run in the house and get a warm jacket and then go back outside. They didn't have those kind of amenities back then, did they?
Not at all.
What did they do?
If you didn't grow it or hunt it or forage, you didn't have it.
Really?
That was it.
There was no craving anything, was there?
They didn't even know what was out there or what could be out there. All they wanted, when they were headed for Oregon, their goal was to find a place where they could have enough acreage to grow their crops to feed their animals, which would then feed them, and a place to have a garden and water, ample water to provide for their needs. And that usually meant, in those days, that was a creek or a lake or a river or something. But they needed room to grow things because they lived without stores in those days.
Let me ask you one question that is obvious to ask, but I don't know if a lot of people have. What about currency? What about money? Did they take money with them?
They did have money. There were times when they needed money. And when they sold off their belongings in the beginnings, they all took money with them to use at the different trading posts.
Okay, I was going to say at the trading post, but what about when they finally got to their destination point, be it here or Oregon? Currency was needed, and they had nothing except basically the shirt on their back and their livestock. What did they do to buy anything?
They traded. They traded goods for goods and services for goods, and then if someone needed help and had a little money that could pay them, they did basically without money. They had to.
Was there ever, in the early years, back in the 40s going into the 1850s and everything, was there a communication source somehow, be it riders or whatever, from the East Coast or the Midwest to the West Coast? How did they keep informed as to whether that part of the country hadn't fallen off the face of the earth?
It's very common even in Burley today.
True. Thanks, Gary.
Word of mouth.
Yeah,
you know,
really.
Some guy wandering through, sometimes they carried newspapers with them. And
did the mountain men furnish a lot of that information when they were going back to their rendezvous, etc.?
I'm sure they did. I don't have a record of it, but I know that they always exchanged information, where the best places to hunt were, where the food was better, where the game was at.
So they didn't have a mail service, and there was no Outrider, Pony Express, nothing. And so when their families waved goodbye to them in St. Joe, Missouri, that was goodbye.
That was goodbye. For most of them, it was never see you again.
Really?
And all of that changed when gold was discovered.
Really?
That changed everything, because they had to come up with ways to get first the people over there who took care of themselves, but then these guys that were money-minded decided they needed to get supplies. Those miners needed supplies. They needed food. They weren't out hunting for food and foraging. They were digging in the dirt.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm sure with your studies you are the people to ask this. I'm sure a lot of them had every intention of making the trek, going clear to Oregon. What was the percentage in your diaries of people that said, I've had it, I'm going home?
There was quite a more than you might suspect. I think it was more than 20%.
You're kidding me.
Turned around and went home.
They went back.
Yep.
They couldn't take it anymore. And a lot of them, if they were on the trail, maybe they said, this is as far as I'm going. I'm going to set up my residence here.
Exactly.
Wherever there was water.
Wherever there was water.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Wherever
Rock
they could
Creek
grow
was
something.
the most likely spot. There was even fish and salmon and everything came up Rock Creek.
Really?
So it was rich with fish.
Yeah, they talked in the diaries about grabbing anything that would hold a fish, pans, aprons, blankets, anything. They'd take it to the water and scoop up the fish.
Really?
Yeah, and scoop them out.
In your studies of the Oregon Trail and people that went all the way to Oregon, you mentioned just a moment ago it was a kind of a permanent goodbye at St. Joe, Missouri. Did you ever read of people that said, hey, we're going to go back and see the relatives, whether it's in Massachusetts or New Jersey or whatever? Did a lot of them try to go back and see their relatives?
I think there's no really record that I'm aware of, but I think that the bonds of family are pretty strong. And I think that there were times, especially if someone was expecting a baby, for instance, people were willing to make the trek either one way or the other. My own great-grandmother went from Nebraska to Illinois to have her baby and then come back, and I've never yet been able to figure that one out.
Back in the days when they settled Oregon, and they made it all the way to Oregon City, etc., and they found the various locations and land to set up their farms and their ranches, etc., when did they start having some kind of communication as far as a postal service that was somewhat quasi-reliable, etc.? When did all this start so that those people did have some kind of contact with the outside world?
In the 1860s.
That long?
After the Civil War.
I see.
People were moving more, and they, like I said, they needed a way to get supplies to the miners, and then they would try to get food and freight and that kind of thing, and then that set up a means of transportation, which were the stagecoaches, and so they set up stage stops and freight stops across the nation.
And the steamboats sure shown.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you too, did the Pacific Ocean lend itself by going around, let's say, to the southern route and then up to the west coast, Seattle, Portland, Northern California, etc., did that lend kind of a trading route, if you will, for the west coast to get some of the goods and services they needed?
It definitely did, but it was a long, risky journey. And so that was used probably more than people realize even, but I'm not really up on all that, but I do know that was a well-used thing, and they went to San Francisco and to Portland. They went clear up to Portland.
So when you were traveling 170 years ago, you darn sure didn't want to get in a hurry.
No. Well, in a sense, there was a reason to hurry, because if they didn't get over those Blue Mountains by September, then they were stuck.
They were stuck.
They had to probably stay at Fort Boise, because if the snow started falling, they wouldn't make it in the wagons.
Did they have the sense and the wherewithal that if they saw those little flurries, be it September or early October, better stop, make residence, and this is where we're going to stay?
That's it. Yeah. Until the next year.
Until the next year.
Mm-hmm.
But there had to be water.
There again, quickly, I've got 1 minute left, Gary. Water. I mean, how did they find enough water? I mean, they must have been out searching every day.
It was a constant thing. Probably the biggest thing that saved them was their scouts that would go out ahead of time and find water and feed for everybody.
Really?
Well, that was their main reason for sticking to the Snake River.
Yeah.
Was
really?
So that there would be water.
And conversely, the Columbia, too, I would imagine.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Gary and Bevstone, would you do me a favor and come back? I mean, I just absolutely love talking to you. These are the experts when it comes to what happened in our early days of the Oregon Trail, the California Trail. Thank you so much for being here.
And we didn't even discuss fly fishing yet.
No, but we'll get into it.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Gary and Bevstone. I want to remind you about our wonderful friends at, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and serving is the key word. They have the best of tires, all the tread designs, everything for your driving needs. Stop in and see them today. And also, if you're planning a little trip, don't forget to check on the free pre-trip safety check. They'll go over and check your air pressure on the tires, brake components, wheel alignment, front end components, shocks and struts, all of this to make sure you drive safely. Check it out today at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The absolute best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. As I stated earlier this morning, I will not be on the program tomorrow. We have some things that have to be taken care of for my lovely, lovely wife. And also on Thursday, we have canceled Lunch Bunch for this month only. So don't be alarmed. We'll be back Thursday and give you a complete review of everything that's going on. Zeb at the Ranch for this morning. God bless you and your family. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be.